From a craft perspective, what was it like to collaborate with a nonfiction author? I mean, you've already done this, right? Where you've collaborated with screenwriters in a writer's room and EPing on the film side of things, which you didn't previously have experience with. And then now you're doing the same thing, working with another nonfiction author and obviously a storied historian. From a craft perspective, how did you two collaborate? What was difficult? How did you align on an approach?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you asked that and that you mentioned the screenwriting side of it, because that does play in. Meaning, on the thriller side, that's all me. If it's horrible, there's no one to blame but myself. That is all on me. Hollywood, my experience there is still very limited, but it's a few years old now, and now two shows and starting a third. Very collaborative. Even if there's one name on the script or that episode, that is a very collaborative process that led to that final script. For this next one here, for Dark Wolf, I'm writing the finale with the showrunner David DiGilio. Our names are on it, but it is extremely collaborative. Not just other writers in the writers' room, because most of them move on to their projects when that side is done, and it falls back to the executive production team. So to me, to David DiGilio, to Max Adams, to Jared Shaw, to Chris Pratt, to Taylor Kitsch, to Fred Toye, one of the directors, and so it falls Antoine Fuqua. So it falls to all of us to then continue to develop those after those writers have moved on. So extremely collaborative is my point, as you mentioned. So this was also collaborative, but not to that extent. So this is just the two of us, not to the extent where you have executive production teams and it goes up for notes and then comes back down and all the rest of it. Yeah, so it's collaborative in a sense, but not like that. So it's a mix. It's in between, but more on the side of more individual. Because now, if no one likes this book or if we mess it up, well, there's just two people to blame, not Amazon or like all the people involved in that thing. Like, I knew we shouldn't have done that type of a thing. So it does fall back on both of us. But I went in as a student. I typically do that with anything. Like in the Philippines, I was there in 2009. I was supposed to be the advisor to a Philippine Marine general in the Southern Island chain. This general has been fighting an insurgency in the Southern Island chain for like 30 years. And so any advice I can give him are really going to come in the form of some sort of like technical surveillance type stuff that the United States may have that can help them in whatever they're doing. So I approached that from the student perspective, and I learned a ton from him. It was amazing, and he became like a mentor down there, where I learned so much about counterinsurgency and insurgency, specifically to that island chain, but also more broadly. So I approached this in the same way, which was a similar way that I went into the screenwriting, which is as a student, and also knowing that what I wrote in the thriller is going to change because this is now a different medium, and I'm trusting these people to do the best job with it that they can. But now I'm a part of it too, so I need to add value to this, knowing that my job here isn't just to try to keep things exactly as they were in the novel, but to add value to this show in whatever way I possibly can. So I approach this the same way. I'm a student in the nonfiction space. I'm obviously a reader and a consumer of it and a student of history, but I am not a historian, nor am I a scholar who knows what they're doing when it comes to research and knows the proper way to annotate things and the legal way to annotate all of these things in the notes section, although the notes section is pretty robust in here. And even the photographs. There were some photographs I wanted to use that we couldn't use because the company that owned it wasn't Getty or AP. Anyway, it was one of these ones that you would know if I said the name. But it had changed hands so many times since 1983, they couldn't even tell us who owned the rights to these photos. And the Marine Corps just writes on like originally AP, and they don't care because it's the Marine Corps. But for us and Simon & Schuster and the legal team there, no, it has to be done right. You have to have permission and have paid for every single photograph in there or licensed or however that works. And there were some we just couldn't figure out, even though it was with a big name company, just because things had changed hands so often. So all of those little things are very different from the thriller space, from the fiction side of things. So I went in as a student, and I'm with essentially one of the best in the business, James Scott, who's also a phenomenal human being and a nice person, which I think also helped when it comes to doing these interviews and establishing trust, because you have my background, military, which helps establish trust with that person who's going to start talking to you. But then the way that James can ask these questions, and you get a sense that he's just a good guy right off the bat. He's not coming in just like, okay, boom, boom, boom. He is coming in and naturally develops a relationship because he's a nice, genuinely nice person. So with the both of us together, the veterans of Beirut felt very comfortable talking to us. And a lot of them said that and let us know that they haven't talked about this, haven't wanted to talk about this ever. But because of this team, they feel comfortable doing it. So for me, I came in it from that. I learned a ton about research and going into archives and who to contact and how to do all that sort of thing, how to go through these letters and photographs and tapes and then declassified documents, Reagan's diary, to get a sense of, how he viewed what was going on. So so I a long way of saying that I approached it from the perspective of a student.